I definitely like to have alone time and time to think and time to write, but I love to teach and I love to help in the profession. And I also love comedy. So if you just, we haven't had
Yeah.
that time yet, but when I get wound up around certain friends, you'll see that aspect too.
Did you did a course or something in comedy?
I recently, yeah, I guess I posted it on Facebook so people knew that, but I took a Steve Martin master class.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
master class they have all these different people teach, and people have said to me for years like you should be doing stand up, but I don't have anything organized. I just love to make people laugh. So when you get me on a roll and I get going, it's really hilarious. Like last night, at the last night for our retreat, there was just six of us sitting around and we were crying, like all of our faces hurt. We were just laughing so hard, but I kind of got into a
Yeah.
groove. But I don't have anything organized. I just love comedy because I find it's like a universal language that we can open the door to one another, and then comedy is a way also of getting really amazing ideas across without being offensive, because you just
Right.
can raise people's awareness about what we're doing that's kind of dumb,
Yeah.
by making fun of it. And so yeah, I've loved comedy for years.
That's awesome. It
Hmm.
was only a couple of months ago that I realized just from going online that for Europe, if you want to be a stand-up comedian in Europe, Barcelona is the place to be,
Oh
and
really?
I didn't know
Oh, I'm
that.
gonna go check out the clubs.
Yeah, every night
Uh
in
huh.
Barcelona, every night there's a free event that they go to.
Nice.
So I went through a phase. Me and my flatmate Casey, we went through a little phase where we were going to comedy clubs all the time just to
Right.
watch. Because sometimes people go, and it's people that are training to be a stand-up comedian, so they'll go to the same shows
Right.
and they'll have the same 10-minute set,
Yes.
and it's really fascinating for me because I would like the idea of being a stand-up comedian and trying it, but it is an art,
It
it's a
is an
skill
art.
set.
You don't realize that people who are really good at it make it look
Yeah,
effortless.
they've really practiced.
But I just want to say huge parallels to chiropractic, because they have to get their tight 10. Well, we need to get our tight 10, to figure out how to communicate what we do. And they face tremendous rejection in order to get that
Yeah,
tight 10.
they
And
have to
it's,
go through the
yeah, people ridiculing and hating them, and them bombing, and they try it out and it doesn't work. And I really see that's a lot of us in the beginning of practice. We're trying to figure out how to communicate, and we have to deal with tremendous amounts of rejection. But once you get over that part, let's say you're in practice and you get to your first 100 visits a week, now you have your fan base. They protect you a little bit, they
right.
create a little bit of momentum for the newcomers. And it's the same way in comedy. People have an easier time in a lot of ways as they get more fans, and it's a similar thing in chiropractic, in my opinion.
Yeah, you would go and you would see someone on the Monday, and on the Thursday they would do the same set, but the little minutia that goes into it and the timing,
Yeah,
and I would see them only a couple of days later, and they would deliver the joke differently.
so
And
much
for me,
better
even though I've seen the set, it was interesting for me.
to
See,
watch the evolution.
yeah,
Yeah.
you see these guys like practicing their art, and they are like so funny, like they're so quick. And then you see other people that go up, and I felt for them it was more of like a therapy, like
Right.
they were
Right.
doing it just to go up and talk about their problems.
Right.
And
And you
it,
can feel a difference.
yeah, it was funny either way because
Right.
sometimes they go up and they bomb and they're
Mm-hmm.
just completely unprepared, and the
Mm.
joke. I'm like, who told you like
Right.
why are you here? Who
Mm-hmm.
told you that you were funny? And then there's other ones that go up and they just dominate the stage. Like,
I want to draw another parallel, though, that you just mentioned, because you said something about the pauses, because pauses are really important. And Dizzy Gillespie used to say that when he became really masterful was when he learned about the spaces between the notes and how important they were. And I think about that in our adjusting and in our communication. Sometimes it's what we don't adjust and what we don't say that actually is more powerful, allowing what we did say or what we did adjust to really sink into the cellular body of the person.
do you think that using the stand up comedy helped you with your patients? Like, what do you use?
Uh,
Because
I
I try and keep my Charla funny. I try
Right,
and keep everything very
me too.
funny and quite light-hearted. I don't like to go too deep with the person.
Right,
And chiropractic, like, we're fun to make fun of. If you
we are fun to
don't
make fun of.
don't take yourself too seriously.
I agree. If you can poke fun at yourself, it's going to be so much easier for that person to actually come closer if they're having a difficulty with you. But humor is hard in certain situations. What I know about myself, I mean, I have tremendous rapport with people because of my humor, and also I lose people because of my humor when
Right.
it doesn't land right, or I didn't read the audience correctly,
Okay.
and then I created more distance. It can be tricky. I actually love listening to comedians talk about the craft of comedy. I find so many parallels to chiropractic. Like if
Right.
you ever get the chance to watch Comedians in Cars,
Yeah, yeah.
that's just a great show,
Yeah.
and you really learn a lot about the art of delivery. And if we would be as thoughtful about what we're saying and how it's received as they are, I just think our message would go much further.
And
They're
what,
crafting message all the time. But we aren't always so thoughtful. We just love what we have to say, and then we're just dumping it on people. We're not really always gauging the reaction and how to tweak it so that we go further,
yeah.
with more.
And that fear of rejection, I feel like a lot of chiropractors, they don't want to put themselves out there too much because what if
Mm-hmm.
people disagree with me, or what if I get attacked? But if you
Mm-hmm.
look at it as a comedian, so if we were sitting here as two comedians having a
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
podcast, you would be saying to me, look, you're 26, you're only starting to get started in this
Mm-hmm.
game. You need to go out and you need to bomb,
Right.
and you need to learn
Right.
how to deal with that rejection. And a lot of them, for them, it's kind of like the badge of honor. It's like
Right.
you
It's kind
have
of
to go through it.
right. I did say that when we were out at dinner. Like that's just the first few years until you build that fan base. You are going to deal with a lot of rejection. Now the question is, what do you do with that rejection? Some people turn it in on themselves and be like, "Oh, okay, I guess I suck."
Yeah.
And it's not the case. It's just that I guess you need to work harder to get a bigger fan base. Then once you get a bigger fan base, you're more willing to say, well, that person wasn't really a fit for me, or, I could have done this part better, but really in the long run, they weren't really interested in what I had to offer. You make it mean something different. But in the beginning, when you're hit with massive amounts of rejection, you can make it mean a lot of different things that it doesn't mean, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's that contrast. It's like, I really want this to work, but I'm also not attached to the outcome.
That's a great thing to not be attached, which
Yeah.
is really hard, especially if you're starting a practice and you feel desperate.
Right.
Desperation is the enemy, in my opinion. If you can just divorce yourself from your need, or divorce yourself from attachment to the outcome, and just do what it is that you're going to do. And comedians talk about the art, a lot of actors talk about this, or movie directors, that you just commit yourself to the expression of what you're creating. There's a great book about this topic. It's called The War of Art.
Uh-huh.
And it's written by Stephen Pressfield. And he talks about that attachment to the outcome is what messes a lot of people up who are in creation. And as chiropractors, when we're going to start a new clinic, we're in creation. There's a lot of vulnerability there. There's a lot of like, what if people hate what it is that I have as a dream? And you just have to divorce yourself from that and just do what it is that you love and that you have to do anyway. But just get as much help as possible to get it leveraged quickly so that you don't go through that mental thing of I suck, because there's what's happening and then there's what you make it mean. They're two separate things.
I try and tell people, like especially first years that are maybe only starting out with adjusting, and maybe they've only done a couple of adjustments, and you'll see them at a seminar or something, and they do an adjustment, and they're like, oh, that one didn't work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you kind of have to brainwash yourself to be like, no, every adjustment, that was the best one. Like you have to keep positive about it. I know that I can communicate to people, so that I wouldn't be like, I have the message. If you're on board and you want to come and see me, in the BCC clinic, here's what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And if it's not for you, then that's fine. But for me, it would be more the adjustment, especially if I really want that one to be a good adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
If it's someone that I really respect, I'm like, oh, I want that person to think.
Right.
Then I'm attached to the outcome, and then I'm not going to do a good adjustment.
Right. Well, that was another thing we talked about tonight at dinner, is like that thing that we do where we get in the way. Think about if you're an actor or a comedian, you can feel when the person is thinking. We used to watch American Idol a lot with my children, and they loved that show. But we could feel when the person let go and they were just performing, and they had surrendered, and they were just giving the song, and they were lost themselves to it. And you could feel when someone is thinking about it. You can just you know the difference, and it's the same for us as chiropractors. There's so much that goes into it. I'm saying that we need to divorce ourselves from the outcome, but that's after we've trained and practiced, and it does take.
You've wrote the jokes and thought about the timing between the jokes.
Exactly, and you've practiced it, and you've been willing to stink for a little while because you know that that's the process to getting better. So, I think it's like more complex than just, let go and just do it.
Yeah.
You have to stay on it. And I think it takes a lot of different skills also to make a practice go. That's what you get bombarded by when you first go out there. But to me, the skill that's most important that you learn right now is adjusting. And that's, the art that you need to focus on right now.
That's something Patrick McMahon said. I did the Centre for Advanced
They're
seminar
wonderful.
over the weekend, and he was saying that now when people are saying, "Oh, how did you get good at this adjustment?" or "How did you know to do that?" He's saying experience, which is like a turnaround for him because when he was my age and he was in chiropractic college, he was with Arno,
Mm-hmm.
and he'd be saying, "How did you know how to do this?" or "How
Mm.
did you do that?" and Arno would turn and just say experience. And for
Right.
Patrick, who's very analytical,
Mm.
he'd be like, "Well, fuck, like,
Right.
how am I supposed to get the experience if I don't
Right.
have the answer?" But now it's come
Mm-hmm.
full circle, and he's saying to me, like,
Mm-hmm.
it'll come,
Time.
and I can do that just from experience.
Well, there's that, there is no process that does not require time.
Yeah.
So the process towards you becoming excellence requires time. And also, though, that, you were saying something like that adjustment worked or that didn't work or it was a good adjustment or it was a bad adjustment. One of the best things you can give a patient is consistency over time. For me, I was adjusted by greats, in our profession. And it took 5 years for me to realize that my brain was changing. 5 years
Mm.
of consistent care, but that was how much trauma my nervous system had, or whatever the techniques were doing. But because I was consistent in those 5 years, it changed my brain, it changed my life, it changed the lives of my children. I can't even see what possibly has changed as a result of that consistency over time.
Mm.
Time is a very important quality. And as a very impatient person, I can say that over the years, that's one of the things I've learned is that it's important to pay attention to the process of time.
Yeah, that took me a while to have that detachment from the adjustment
Mm-hmm.
and say, okay, like,
It's a process,
yes,
not an event.
yeah,
We
and
all think of it as an event, but the truth is it's a process over time.
yeah, that's what I try and convey now to the first years.
Mm.
Like that idea of the comedian who's just willing to stink and is like, yeah, you gotta pay
Mm-hmm.
your dues and go through it.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting annoyed because they didn't do their first cervical adjustment,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, do you think you're just gonna walk in here
Right.
and
It's not the
start doing
way,
it?
right.
You're
Most
gonna
of
be
us,
practicing this for 50 years.
right. Most of us, when we started walking, we fell down a lot. When we started talking, we sounded like idiots, So it's just, every process requires time.
I was really surprised to hear that because I've seen you on stage
Mm.
and I've seen you go on and dominate the stage.
Mm.
So it was really surprising for me to hear from you that you had to walk that journey, you had to walk
Mm-hmm.
that path, and that
Yeah.
you were really
Mm-hmm.
nervous. Like for
Yeah.
me, I love public speaking.
I know,
I like
it's
it.
amazing to me.
Maybe I'll get a little bit nervous, but
Mm-hmm.
it's more of like an excitement.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a fear. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
you had to walk through. You
Mm-hmm.
had
A
to
lot
walk
of
that
fear.
path of
Mm-hmm.
how did you change from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was telling, as I was saying to you while we were walking on the beach, that, I used to cancel my spinal care workshop, when I would have 12 or 14 people scheduled because I would get such a stomach ache because I would be so nervous. And part of me is embarrassed to tell that story, and part of me is hoping that it's helpful for people who think, like, well, I'm just not that, because I wasn't that. But what I felt was that I just had a lot of primal fear. It wasn't even rational at all, like that I was going to get attacked, that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't worthy. It just had a lot of noise based
Mm,
on a lot of trauma, from earlier years. But one of the things that was most helpful was to just keep doing it anyway. And so, if anyone's listening who feels that way, just keep doing it anyway. Ask for help. I got a lot of help. I'm here to help people. So, you can find me on Facebook and just ask for help if this is your gig. But I took a lot of courses about speaking. I read books, I took courses. I just was determined to be more prepared.
right. You had to break it down.
I had to break it down into steps for
Okay.
sure. And that made me a better speaker. So I learned certain skills in order to do that. The other thing is that I decided at some point that whether I think I'm awesome or if I think I stink, I'm stuck. Either way,
What do you
right?
mean?
It's the ego
Right.
saying that you're awesome or saying you're horrible, whether it's at adjusting or public speaking or just anything. when you bring the heart of a loving servant to everything you do, like I was saying to you, I never listen to any of my things that I record. I don't watch any videos, and I do a lot. I teach.
Still to this day, you won't watch it.
Never. And never watch it. I don't like to watch or listen. There's a woman who in my office, she edits videos because I teach chiropractors and CAs, on a weekly basis. And I'll walk in the room and she knows now like to turn the volume down because I'll just turn around and walk out. I just don't like to listen to it. I'll critique it so much that I'll stop myself from doing it. So I
Okay.
just don't go there. It's like the reason I do it is to be of help. That's in alignment with my values.
Right.
Like I want to be of help. If I can help chiropractors evolve, if I can help CAs evolve, if I can help the public evolve, I'm all on board. But I really don't want to look at it and I don't want to hear it. I just want to be able to do it. And I do get feedback from people. People do give me feedback and help. But for the most part, I just know that I just want to stay in the lane of being helpful and not have to think about what it looks like or sounds like because I usually don't like it.
Do you think that made you a better coach? Because you had to
Absolutely
start from zero and walk through it. So now when someone comes to you and they're like, "Oh, I can't do this,"
Yeah.
It's okay if you were just naturally talented at it and you just pick it up. It's a lot harder for them to.
Right. I definitely think I'm a much, much better coach for all the different challenges that I had to overcome. And I had a lot of things to overcome. I always got coaches. I still have coaches. I like being coached. I really enjoy it. I like evolving myself. It's a really satisfying feeling, showing you that notebook with all the different pictures. There's a picture on the next page of what I'd shown you. It's a mountain and a person's at the top of the mountain. What I find in chiropractic is a lot of us are orienting ourselves towards the top of the mountain, meaning like, I want to get there. We don't always even identify where there is, quote unquote, but it's like 1,000 people a day or, whatever. We just have this big idea and this big vision, but it's not actually very clear what it is or how to incrementally get there. There's no process. So you're always longing for the mountaintop. Do you know what I mean? You're always looking up being like, oh, I guess I suck because I'm not up there. But if you orient yourself towards where you came from, and you're always looking from where you came from, like from now to when you started first year, like look at all the process you've made. It's only a couple years. Imagine what you're going to be like with a decade under your belt.
Yeah.
That's kind of an amazing thought. Like you've only been doing it a couple of years and you already feel like such a sense of progress. So for all of us, we just need to orient towards where we were to where we're going. So I am a better speaker than I was, 5 years ago. Your first podcast, you're going to look back on and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that or I did that. Your first video that you make on YouTube, you're just not going to be awesome. The way you get awesome is by doing it over and over, whether you think you're awesome or not, just because you want to help people.
Yeah. And that's why these guys that have been practicing for 15, 20 years and have seen thousands of people can then turn to you and say, hey, it is just experience.
I think so. And, I want to say another thing that you were saying about, like, I had coaches who a lot of things came to them naturally. And so they would be frustrated with me and be like, oh, it's just a mindset. But I needed tools to get from that mindset to something else. So I do think there's something about finding people who have overcome the thing that you need to overcome, because it's so helpful to have the tools rather than just, have somebody sort of bullying you or judging you because they had a really different experience than you had. It just, something came naturally to them. I love that it comes naturally to you. I love that you love to do it. And also make sure that you, when you record things, give it to somebody in and out of the profession and get their feedback. Always be wanting to up-level yourself. But to already have a natural love of it is great.
Yeah. It's that we were talking about at the weekend. It's the white belt mentality.
Yes.
The guy, I'm paraphrasing, but I don't know if I'll get the story exactly right. But we heard the story at the weekend of the guy that invented judo, basically. When he was dying and he was on his deathbed, his top students came to see him, and they were like, "Oh, what do you want us to do? Like as your final wish?" And he said, whenever I die, I want you to bury me with my white belt, because I always had that white belt mentality.
Right, that's lovely.
So even if you're a great communicator or a great adjuster, there's always more.
There's always improvement.
And it's never ending.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not casual about it either. I think that's another thing. I really do think about it. To me, it's an honor to speak, whether it's to the public or to chiropractors. it's a moment that I'm being, asked to be of service to people who changed my family's ancestry. That's the way I look at it. My grandchildren are going to be different as a result of the adjustments that I received. So anything I can do to help people that I feel like already have so much going against them in terms of how the culture thinks, or in terms of our negative brand equity, which you and I talked about, or in terms of like just trust that people have in them or in the product. There's so much going against us, and then also we have this mountain of things to learn in order to like learn how to be an entrepreneur and a great adjuster and just all the things. Anything I can do to help is really what, I stand in alignment with that. So I look at it like it's an honor and a responsibility, to be helpful. So that's really what I
Yeah.
always want.
And you focused a lot as well on the branding of chiropractic and how we represent ourselves.
Yes.
That was part of your talk at Chiro Europe. And the bit that stuck out for me, which maybe we can talk about a little bit and elaborate on, was how if we think of Coca-Cola, which is a really shitty product.
Yeah, total junk.
It's sugar water. It's just a bunch of chemicals. It has no nutritional value.
The research
whatsoever.
Shows.
It does you harm, yet
they're doing great. They're one of the strongest brands over the last 50 years, and they keep staying in the top, at least 50, but really the top 10.
Yeah.
So, right, what I was saying is that we talk a lot about research in the profession. I feel like this is kind of a hot topic, and, it's difficult for me to say, but I want research. I want good research about what's going on in chiropractic. I love research. I'm doing a 3-hour presentation in Portugal on research in chiropractic. I just did a 5-hour presentation in Florida, and I did another one in New Mexico this year. I love it. But I also know that, look, there's research that shows that McDonald's is crap and that, Coca-Cola is total junk. The research doesn't match the rhetoric. The rhetoric is that these products are fun and good because there's stories that they tell that the public buys. So when I look at branding, I look at like, well, what is the brand of chiropractic? What is the story that chiropractic is telling to the public? So one of the stories that we have is that medicine is bad. But that's not a story about chiropractic.
Okay.
Right? That's a story about medicine being bad.
Right.
Okay, so there's a difference between being anti-medicine or being pro-chiropractic. Those are two different things.
So in that sense, it's instead of Coca-Cola focusing on what they're doing, they're saying, Sprite is crap.
It's hard for me to...
Or like, Pepsi, I guess it would be, because that's their competitor.
My brain is like downloading like a lot of thoughts right now. I'm like, how do I'm going to try to talk about brand, but like if you look at certain brands like Coca-Cola, Nike, Disney, McDonald's, each one of them has a different feeling, right? Okay. So what do you know about Disney? Just tell me anything you can about that company.
Disney, Happy Childhood Thoughts.
Happy Childhood, Magic, right?
Marvel.
So they've communicated intuitively to us in seconds. Whether we've gone there or not, we know something about them.
Okay.
What do you know about Coca-Cola? Whether you like the product or not, what do you know about them?
Well, they're always like the happy, like in a group, like all the people on the beach, share a Coke.
Always, yeah, right? What do you know about Nike?
Just do it.
Just do it, like empowerment. Yeah. You're the hero.
Take action.
Right? So each one of these...
Apple
is a great one. Okay, so what do we know about Apple? We both love Apple.
The creative types.
The creative.
Here's to the crazy ones.
Yeah. Here's to the crazy ones. Think differently, right? Think different. And that always bothered me, that campaign, because it really should be think differently. I just want to get that out finally.
Yeah.
But I used to cut out ads in the paper, make collages, and I had think different, right, in the center of my doorway. But it just bugged me because it wasn't grammatically correct. But okay, so we know something intuitively and instantly about these products. Okay, so think about it. Products have to grab your attention. They have to get you to understand who they are and what they're about in seconds. Yeah, and quickly. More and more so with all the digital things. Studies show that maybe 20 years ago we had an attention span of 20 minutes. And now it's shown that you have the attention span of 20 seconds,
Yeah.
right? Like
It's
a
a lot of
goldfish.
social media.
A lot of social media is creating it. We're very ADD because we're jumping from
Yeah.
thing to thing. So that's the way it is. So we have to get attention quickly. So I think about like, what does the public think about chiropractic? Okay, so you named things that these brands have told you that you know in a second.
Okay.
In a second, what does the public know about chiropractic?
They're gonna say the ones I'll often hear when I say, what do you know about chiropractic? Will get back pain,
Back pain, might, yep.
crack my neck,
Crack my neck.
ring dinger.
Ring dinger. God, that guy has done a really good job of
Oh
branding
yes.
chiropractic on his own. I have people walking into my office. I can't believe like you know about that. So that guy is branding chiropractic. So instead of an organization that is protecting chiropractic
Right.
and the image of chiropractic, some lovely man
Yeah.
in Texas is creating more of a story about who we
Yeah.
are.
So regardless of your opinion on him and whether you like his technique,
he's doing a good job
he's
of branding.
doing, yeah, because they're talking about him.
They're talking about him everywhere. It's disturbing. So we don't have a clear message. That's my point. And so there's a lot of confusion about what chiropractic is. And so I also hear people say like it's going to hurt. Bunch of quacks.
They just want your money.
Still, they just want your money. You have to keep going forever.
That's one as well.
Yeah,
that one I hear all the time. No,
Me
if
too.
you go to the chiropractor for a couple of months, you have to go for the rest of your life.
My mailman, we have such great rapport. You know, he loves coming into our office, but he is so scared. He goes, I am terrified of you adjusting me because I know whatever you're going to do to me is going to make me have to come here forever. I'm like, oh. So if we were a company like Coca-Cola or like McDonald's, somebody would be protecting the brand and they would be creating stories about how you get to choose how long you come for care, how gentle it is. They would tell 100 stories about how gentle it is. They would tell 100 stories about how you get to choose the length of care. So I'm going to give you an example. McDonald's, okay, they had a negative brand image because the research came out about all the junk that was in their chicken nuggets and how bad the food was, right? Years ago, I can't remember. I mean, it's happened on and off throughout the years that McDonald's has, you know, what was that movie Super Size Me? You know, they were trashing McDonald's. So McDonald's hired a brand protector, you know, a brand image consultant. And if you notice, then all of a sudden they had Paul Newman's Organics, you know, being served, and they had salads and potatoes, you know, baked potatoes available.
We get it from the free range farmers.
Yeah, exactly. The health options that were available at McDonald's. So they rebranded. BP was known for oil spills, and then when they hired somebody to rebrand, you know, now all of a sudden every BP commercial shows everyone's petting ducks and hugging trees and everything's green and sunshine. They're creating an image and a story. You look at Coca-Cola, they've created an image and a story that you can latch onto. Look at the lines. Coca-Cola adds life. To me, chiropractic adds life. Coca-Cola is the real thing. To me, chiropractic's the real thing. Have a Coke and a smile. Have an adjustment and a smile, right?
Yeah.
So Coke adds life. You know, chiropractic adds life. They keep saying things, you know, about, you know, I'd like to teach the world to sing. This is an old Coca-Cola campaign. So they remind us of the innocence of life. And in a lot of ways, chiropractic is like that. We take care of the whole family, just like old-fashioned doctors do. Some of us make house calls. We know a child from conception until, you know, decades down their life. That's the old-fashioned doctors. It's pure, it's clean, it's good for you. Or we could go down the story of that just do it. Or like one of Nike's best campaigns that I love says, embrace your greatness.
Okay, yeah.
That's a freaking awesome campaign in terms of chiropractic. Embrace your greatness. And they tell the story over and over again where quadriplegics, a whole bunch of different women, kids who, you know, couldn't overcome challenges, all of them were embracing their greatness. So they tell stories. The only stories that I really see us telling, in my opinion, from a professional standpoint, like organizationally, we tell stories about these $1 million athletes.
Okay.
That come,
Tiger Woods, you see that meme, the Tiger Woods meme all the time.
Jerry White. I don't even know who these guys are. I don't know if I'm saying the right name, but like I'm not a big sports person, but I want us to think about that. Most of our clients are women. So I saw somebody post in one of the Facebook groups that she was doing an expo or she was doing a screening at this family festival. So she wanted moms and babies, to come in as her clients. And so she showed her booth. And in the booth, she had this banner, like a 6 foot tall banner, floor to ceiling. And it had some football player on there talking about how he got chiropractic care. And so he's able to sign another multi-million
Okay.
dollar
Yeah.
contract, yada, yada, yada. As a mom
Yeah.
of kids who's trying to make it through the day, I can't relate to that spokesperson. But if they had a spokesperson that was saying, I thought I was going to lose my mind, I couldn't sleep at night, my kids were making me crazy, I started going to the chiropractor, my kids are healthier, we're a more harmonious family, they're doing better in school, I love my husband, we're getting through it. Like, to me, that's really the story that chiropractic would benefit from promoting rather than,
Right.
oh, I'm a superior athlete making more millions of dollars, when our average
Yeah.
customer is a woman who is making the healthcare choices for her whole family. So why aren't we targeting the psychographic of that woman and talking about how we can help her, and chiropractic assists her in making all those choices that she has to make? To me, that would be brilliant if someone in our profession took it upon themselves to hire amazing people and promote that with some of the concepts that I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
But nobody
That
has.
makes much more sense. I think because we don't learn any marketing or anything like that in school. Like, you're
Right.
not taught any of that.
No.
So the chiropractor is just trying to get people in, and they see the meme of Michael Jordan or they see the meme of
Yeah.
Tiger Woods, and they're like, "Oh, I'll share
It's
that to my page."
credibility.
They're just trying to get the message out there, but they haven't
Mm-hmm.
actually sat and thought, who is my audience?
Mm-hmm.
Does the soccer mom, does she relate to Tiger Woods? Does
Mm-hmm.
she have anything in common with Tiger Woods?
Mm-hmm.
Then I guess if you're, you know, funnily enough that you mentioned golf, I was working at a gym a couple of months ago, and as I was walking to go and start my shift, there's a guy there that he owns a golf store, and as I walked past, he was like, "Oh, you're halfway through chiropractic college. Did you learn ring dinger yet?"
Mm-hmm. So
And I'm like,
discouraging.
I didn't say anything. I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, we didn't learn that move yet, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you know." But if you go into him and you say, "Hey, like Tiger Woods did this and that. This is what golf can do to help," even do a couple of tests. Like, you could do like Romberg and Fukuda, and then it will just adjust Atlas, and then say, hey, this is balanced you out. Do you think that's going to help you with your golf game? Let's do a seminar for your golfers, and then talk about the what Tiger Woods has done with that, and Rory McIlroy. There's videos of Rory
Right.
McIlroy
It'd
getting
be great to
adjusted like
take
on the
that
course.
to that group for sure.
But to the soccer moms,
Yeah, you don't want to take that to them.
yeah,
It's not really helpful. And so the question is, like, what message? I think part of the problem is that in branding, we look for that story, so in every story, like any movie you watch, there are a bunch of different archetypes. It's archetypal characters. So there's a hero, and there's a villain, and there's a sage, prophet, the Yoda of the story, and there's an innocent child, and there's all these different archetypes. Well, that's what a lot of branding is. They're picking their archetype. I had you name them before. You named the innocent for Coca-Cola, the hero for Nike, the magician for Disney. That's part of how they get your attention.
right.
And so intuitively, their story and what they offer you on an emotional level, because people buy based on emotion and then they rationalize it based on research.
Afterwards.
Exactly. But what they want, the trigger is mostly emotion. And that if you watch commercials, it's all these emotional stories that don't necessarily relate to what the product does, but that's how they help you to understand the product. And so what I see in our profession is a lot of times we're arguing about which archetype we are. So
Do
there's
you want to
certain,
get people out of pain,
yeah,
or do you want to help
right,
them have a happier, healthier life?
right. Okay, so some people in the profession might look at the vitalist as like they're trying to be magicians, they're
Right.
trying to be wizards. And what they revere is being the ruler, prestigious, and other people revere being the scientist or the innovator, which is the Apple product. And so um, we haven't, no one is deciding what is the archetype. And to me, the archetype isn't based on what we want, it's based on what the public wants. And that's where it gets confusing.
Right.
We shouldn't be deciding, like an agency that's really talented with our guidance should be deciding, and then have a universal message for the profession.
Mm.
Or maybe several. Like some products actually have like 3 windows. When you go to the website, it'll say something like, for children, for moms, for golfers. I'm teasing,
Yeah.
but it gives you different windows, and you pick the window of information that you want. But
You would recommend that, or
no,
you're
not necessarily, but you could do it in your own individual clinic. You could have several different channels that you're speaking about. But again, it can create confusion. So if you're having this golfing presence, what's best is just stay in that lane. That's the image you present to the public, or
okay.
present the image you're presenting to the public, but do this as a quiet, go into the country club and do it. But you don't want to necessarily advertise in the paper, because it could confuse your message about, taking care of babies. Like, you don't want to create confusion. If you confuse them, you lose them. That's one of the things they taught me in my business coaching. You confuse them, you lose them. A confused mind says no. So I think the public is saying no to chiropractic because they're super confused
Yeah.
about who we
We're
are
still
and what we do.
confused
We are.
between ourselves
We are.
on
It's
what we're
hard to
actually
agree
doing
on
here.
anything. Yep.
But then, using that logic, like you said, you wouldn't recommend doing the, separating. So
Bifurcating
if
it,
you want to
right.
come in for sports, you watch
Yeah.
this. If you're a pregnant
Right.
mother, you watch this. But I don't see how you can get that on a mass level without targeting specific groups. So, for instance, if I want to, you know what a doula is?
Yeah, of course.
Like I met a doula in a
Right.
cafe,
Yeah.
and I was trying to explain to her how chiropractic can help in her field as well. But then we would try and organize a charla specifically for doulas,
Right.
and go and speak
Which
to
would
them
be
and say
awesome.
this is the benefits of chiropractic.
Right.
If I'm going to go and speak to some MMA fighters,
Right.
and I'm like, you're less likely to get injured if you go
Right.
and see the chiropractor. You're taking a lot of head trauma. That's why you should
Right.
get checked out. How, without specializing and going to these different subgroups, would you try and market chiropractic?
Well, it's funny that you bring up the MMA fighters, because I was helping one of my clients. That's really what he wanted to be, the person. And so I think you have a much easier time if you pick that narrow lane and you're the best person for that group.
Right.
You actually go further faster than if you try to be something for everyone. It's too diluted. So he became just all of his website and his materials and everything was geared towards that group, and it was really specific. So that helped him. He did great in it. And so if you want to go in a lot, I think it would be confusing if you had a website that was like chiropractic, it's good for doulas and MMA fighters. That's just like disorienting to somebody from the public to come. But if you went and did a talk for doulas, but your website was more,
neutral.
Neutral,
Okay.
that might do better. That you were just getting niches of people to really trust you. You're the product, which is different. So I just want to back up for a second. Someone in the profession is responsible for the universal message of chiropractic that goes out to the public. But as an owner of a franchise of chiropractic, that's what you are as a chiropractor, okay? So if the big head honchos at McDonald's or Coca-Cola are responsible to generate the messaging for McDonald's, but individual franchise owners are not usually responsible, right? They're the people who are just executing day to day in their community. So I just want to make a distinction. What I'm talking about is more like the headquarters conversation. But we're each individual franchise owners. So now as a franchise owner, not only do you have to do your day-to-day execution, but you got to figure out the messaging for your franchise. And so you're talking to me about a strategy that you would use in your own clinic. And so, yeah, I would say you might do better if you want to be, the kind of like a general practitioner type of chiropractor, that you just go to those groups and do all the talks, and then your website reflect a conversation about, brain-body connection and how chiropractic just does a body good. Chiropractic does a body good.
Okay.
It's just so smart, and it's one of the smartest, kindest things you can do for your whole family, and you're repeating those kind of messages over and over again for every age group, and then you just go to your different things. But there are other people who really do want to be the person for doulas or the person for MMA fighters, and they would do well to go narrow in those cases.
Even if people would switch from, back pain, the back pain clinic, to chiropractic, what was your slogan?
Chiropractic, it does the body good.
Chiropractic does the body good.
Mhm.
Even if everyone just switched to that,
Yeah.
it would be so much better than just saying, okay, we're good for back pain.
Yeah. Or chiropractic, better brain, better you. If we wanted to focus on the brain changes
Yeah,
as a
the
result of
neurology.
chiropractic. So, there are a lot of different possibilities, but like, I don't know if you ever watch Mad Men. Some of those stories are actual stories of developing, a story about a product. And you can't have 100 people trying to do that because they will argue about it and not agree on a message. It takes a very refined approach to create a message for, a whole profession.
Yeah.
Super tricky,
But we're
but
still
really
fighting
important.
amongst ourselves.
Exactly. Right.
Is lifetime care good? Is lifetime care bad? Are we only for fixing back pain?
Yeah, we're still figuring that out.
Sigafus used to say in his health talk, like he would do the talk, and then he'd say, "Okay, now that you've heard this, it's your responsibility to go out and tell all the people that you know about it, because this is for everyone."
Right.
And then before they leave, he's like, "And don't just send me people with back pain.
Yeah.
I don't want to click," because he hated that. He hated having that. The
Right.
people coming in.
Right.
Please fix my neck pain. Please fix my shoulder. Like he
Yeah.
hated that. So he'd be like, "Don't just send me those people. Like if you know those people, it's fine. They can come in. But I
Right.
just don't want a waiting room full of people saying, 'Oh, can you fix my shoulder?' Go out there and tell the people that are sick and dying."
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't have like a polarized approach about that. I look at people need answers.
Right.
We're super messed up in healthcare. My associate, I'm away from the practice right now, and she just wrote to me about this guy who's coming in who can't pee without incredible pain, and he's constipated. He's gone to every doctor in Boston. They can't figure out what's going on with them, and he has pain like from L1 down to coccyx on the right hand side. So if I'm in front of somebody like that, I just feel for them. It's really hard to live your life like that. I do think it's a very gradual and tiered approach to convert that person, over to understanding about lifetime wellness care. But if they trust me, they usually listen, and so I'll say to them, look, you're going to be the type of person that you're going to think you're done because the pain's gone away, but you're not. If you had chest pain because your heart had blockage and you ate 4 salads and went up and down stairs for 4 days, you might feel better, but you're not better. The work isn't done.
Okay.
It's not time to start drinking shakes and eating fries. So for those people, they do listen because I've created a change for them. I'm like, I need you to like stay with this. This is a process, not an event. When you put braces on, you're not running to the mirror going, oh, they're straight yet every day. Like, it's going to take time. So I think we might be able to get better at reaching those people. But that story about like, people are annoying when they're in pain. I have a different approach, but I also have heard this. Like some people will get upset as chiropractors and think like, well, when a person says I'm in pain, that means I'm not doing it right. You know what I mean? That's what they're saying is I did it wrong. I'm like, I never hear that. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Of course you're in pain. You've been doing it this way for 40 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you went to a dentist for the first time in 40 years, you're in trouble. And that dentist isn't going to like bail you out in one appointment. It's just not that like there's going to probably be a process of rebuilding, and you might have lifelong challenges because you did that. That was your choice.
Yeah, it took you 40 years to get into this mess, but you want me to take it away in 4 visits.
I'm not Jesus.
Yeah.
So that whole thing of like giving them something that they can relate to. Heart disease did not get created overnight. I joke with my clients. I'm like, of course you want to be out of pain in a day. I get it. I want to go to a workout class and lose 20 pounds in a class. I give it my all. What the hell? Why did that happen? It's consistency over time that's how the body changes. It's true with heart disease. It's true with braces and teeth decay. And it's true with cardiac blockages. And it's true with weight. And it's like, we just have to remember, like, remind them, of course you want that. Like, I want that too. I want to be able to like think, I have, $2 billion in my bank account, but it takes consistency over time for me to create the reality that I want to create.
Well, you do the coaching and you're quite immersed in the coaching. If anyone has listened to this and they want to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
Well, even if people want, I have free resources on my website. It's called chirobloom.com. like Cairo, and then the word bloom, like a flower.com. There's a lot of free resources there, a blog. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube, and I've just tried to share some of the things that I've have found that clients find useful. But there's also the ability for somebody to just book with me. People can message me on Facebook. I'm here to help if you need it.
Yeah, you have a long day tomorrow of
I do.
client calls.
I do.
If you get on the Wi-Fi in the hotel.
I know. I'm so excited about Wi-Fi.
We're currently we're at the W Hotel.
Yeah, super swanky.
It's well, usually I've never been here before, even though I've lived in Barcelona for 3 years, because I can't really even afford to look through the window at the W. But my auntie Pam invited me down so we went and had some dinner, and then went and had some ice cream, and now we'll wrap up. Is there anything else that you want to add, or?
I just want to say thank you for your commitment and your passion and the caring that you bring to chiropractic. I really appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much.
Very proud of my nephew.
It's good to catch up with my fun aunt. And oh, by the way, I heard you're doing the thing in Portugal.
Yes, I am.
I'll be there.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, fun. I'm so excited.
I got sponsored.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's great to know.
Yeah, Sebastian. He lives in Portugal, but he can't go to that seminar. But he still wanted to support the seminar.
Oh, awesome!
So I'm gonna be there.
Oh, great! I'm so glad. Lovely. That's wonderful. That'll be fun.
Maybe we'll do another one then.
That'd be great.
Awesome.
I love it.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you, Auntie Pam.